So Margaret, tell me about your early life in California. I believe you were born in San Francisco, is that right?
I was born in San Francisco and lived there 3 days because my mother was a medical doctor and had interned in San Francisco and wanted me to be born at a hospital there. But as soon as we could leave, we went back to Hanford, California, which is in the Central Valley. It's a small town of about 10,000 people.
How far from San Francisco is it?
Oh, it's probably 300 miles, something like that.
And then did you have most of your schooling there?
I lived there till I was 10. I went to elementary school there. One of the things that happened to me, which would never happen now, is that because I did better academically than the other kids in my class, I was skipped a grade. They don't do that anymore because it has a tendency to create people with psychological problems. But they didn't know that then. So
Do you feel that happened to you?
I don't judge that myself. But that's what made me slightly younger than the other kids.
There could be some advantages as well as disadvantages.
Yes,
right?
but they don't do it anymore. It's quite interesting. They don't let people skip. They used to. Anyway, and when I was 10, we moved to Tucson, Arizona. One of my brothers had a health problem and the climate there was better, so I went to junior high and high school in Tucson. And then returned to California to go to Stanford as an undergraduate.
Let's go back to your earlier schooling. So when would you say you developed an interest in mathematics? Was it early on? Was that your favorite subject?
It was not my favorite subject. I liked all of school. I was a school wimp. You know, one of those kids that people say, oh, I hate school, I wish summer were here. And I would say, no, I love school. I mean, really a dork in some sense, but you know, that's the way I was. And so I always did well in math, but math is so elementary at that stage in your life, it's hard to tell. Even in high school, I always was the best student in math, but that's not saying a lot, it's just saying that that's the way it was. So I was always interested in it, but no one in my family had been an academic. I had no idea about getting a PhD or anything like that. I just knew that I liked math, among other subjects.
Can you tell us something about your parents?
Both my mom and dad were medical doctors. They had both gone to the University of California. I only realized much later how exceptional it was that my mother had been in medical school in the 30s. There were hardly any women then.
Was it UCSF then? Too?
UCSF, right? Exactly. And my mother did, it's a specialty they don't have anymore, eye, ear, nose, and throat. And my dad was a general practitioner.
And they met in medical school?
Yes, they did. And you know, they both kind of wished I would become a doctor, medical doctor, which of course meant that I didn't want to do that.
I see.
I wanted to do something else. So I would call it a pretty mild form of rebellion, but I sort of said, I don't want to be a doctor like you.
And were you the oldest sibling?
I was. I had 2 brothers, younger than I.
One difference?
Almost 3 years younger, and the other one 3 years younger than that. So.
And so then, was it obvious to you from a certain point in high school that you would be going to college somewhere?
I think it's one of those instances where there was never even a question about it. Both my parents were medical doctors. Everyone in their families had gone to college. It was just not even thought about that I wouldn't go to college.
And did you early on think about Stanford?
Well, again, it's a little mild rebellion story. So both my parents had gone to Berkeley and then to UCSF. So there was a certain amount of course, you're going to go to UC Berkeley. And because we lived in Arizona, I thought maybe I would have to pay out-of-state tuition. But it turned out if your parents are alums, you don't have to. So being rebellious, I wanted to go to school in the West Coast region. And so I said, I think I'll apply to Stanford, which caused a certain amount of consternation because, you know, Stanford and Berkeley are historical rivals, but they said that's fine. I got into both of them and I decided to go to Stanford.
And you didn't apply anywhere else?
No. Overconfident. No, it's not true. I applied to the University of Arizona, but since 80% of
safe school.
high school graduates in Arizona got in there, that was not a tough one.
Well, times were different then.
Absolutely.
And tell us about your first days at Stanford.
My first week at Stanford, I had 2 roommates who were very sociable, very sociable. There were 3 girls, as we then were called, in a room. And they were saying, you know, why did I come to Stanford? And I said, because of the intellectual stimulation, really, what a prig. I said, I'm really looking forward to this great sort of intellectual environment, and they burst out laughing, and they both said, "We came here to meet boys. What's wrong with you?" And I said, "Oh, okay." So they were very nice, but we had slightly different perspectives. But I loved Stanford. I thought it was, you know, a great environment. There were plenty of interesting classes. I liked all my subjects. And the hard decision that I had was what to major in, because I liked math, I liked English, I liked history, I liked French.
And there was no computer science
No
undergraduate
computer science
major, at least.
undergraduate degree
Maybe
at the
not
time.
even a department then.
There was no
It
department.
started soon after, I think.
Right. So
You
I
were
just,
at college in which years?
60 to 64.
Yeah, I think the department started in 1965, I think.
Correct. I got a master's degree in 65, which was the first year they gave that degree.
Master's in computer science?
Right.
Oh. So what were some of the other majors you were thinking about?
Well, I took a lot of English classes and French and history, and math, of course. Math was the most demanding of the majors. You had to take the most classes in it. And I really wasn't sure what I wanted to major in, but someone told me that if you had a degree in math, you could get better jobs. Now, the way I was taught math, I couldn't imagine that anyone would ever pay money to have me do math. But I thought, okay, I believe these people, so I'll major in math. So that's what I did. So it wasn't a decision based on loving that subject more than others. It was a sort of practical decision about what would give me a job. And of course, it was right.